All right, once again, good morning. We're going to get started in just a second. I'm verifying that we have everyone who should be on the call.
Okay. I got to download the WebEx application.
If it's asking you to do so, go ahead and do so. But normally it just lets you connect right through Chrome, your browser.
So yeah, it's telling me to download it, and now it says run the WebEx application.
Go ahead and choose
run.
Run.
Okay. All right. So on the message bar at the bottom of the window to run it. Okay, then this little box popped up. It says audio connection, call me, I will call in, call use a computer.
You are already connected, so choose the option really that doesn't let you do anything. Kind of
okay, I can just exit. I guess I just exit.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon to everyone on the call, and welcome to the Interactive Giving Kiosk and Dashboard Training. This is the last scheduled session that will include our partners at Technology, and Technology is the company that created Truly Interactive and Interactive Giving and the dashboard and the kiosk applications that you see, and we're going to go over those today. So starting off, I want to go ahead and get some introductions out of the way. We have on the call Darren Peck, who's a software developer at Technology, as well as myself, Ori Entry as Cook, and I serve as the IT Systems Specialist in THQ in the IT department. Technology, of course, just as I mentioned, we literally approached them, and I think it was through the Dallas office, to create this software that will allow people to give through their credit cards and to be able to give in person. And so I know Darren will speak a little bit more to that, but I just wanted you to understand who was on the call and who was speaking to you. And if you have any questions, definitely go ahead and speak up or send them in the chat, and we'll be sure to answer them. Okay, we're connected. All right, so our agenda today is going to cover how to access and navigate the dashboard, what test mode is and how you use it, as well as the ability to turn on and off the different card type logos and how to configure the donation receipt. We'll also go over some best practices when operating the iPad and the card reader and using the dashboard. We'll talk about device settings and how those are used in transactions, as well as campaigns. We'll also go over the built-in notifications and alerts, as well as reports and any questions you have. All right, so I want to first start off with showing you how to access the dashboard, and that's at a web address called giving.sauss.net. So that's giving.sauss.net, and you should see this login page, which asks you for your email address and your password. Everyone on this call should have received a temporary password to get into your location's dashboard. And if you did not receive that, please email me, and I will go ahead and get it set up as we're on the call. All right. The next piece is I want to introduce Darren and have him speak a little bit about why we chose Truly Interactive and how they've delivered on our initial request. Darren, are you on the call?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Hey, guys. How's it going? So, yeah, as our intro said, my name is Darren Peck from Technology. We're just wanting to, first of all, just say how much of an honor it is to work with all you guys on this project. Just really get you guys moving into towards what we believe is really just a much better way for you guys to, just to deal with your donations and all this stuff, just to get that all into one good spot. I'm just going to share my screen here. You guys can let me know as soon as you see that.
I
Yep,
can see your screen.
I can see it.
Awesome. Wonderful. All right. So yeah, interactive giving came out of basically just the whole process of us trying to figure out, um, we had different options. For example, like with Square, I believe some Salvation Army locations did actually try receive donations with Square, but we just realized that there was such a big issue with that. More for example, from the point of view that someone could just very easily create their own Square account and really just on behalf of Salvation Army stand by Kettle and say, oh hey, yeah, come donate to Salvation Army, but really they're signed in with their own account on the device, could potentially just be a security risk. Just something so easy that could happen. And so it just presented a big problem for us. And so we just really wanted to build something that could be branded Salvation Army, just really give that trust of the Salvation Army's name, which already exists out there, and just give people a peace of mind that when they come to that Kettle and they see that branding, that they just know for a fact that they're given towards the Salvation Army, and just again, not really have to worry about anything. And so that's what really got us going with the beginning of interactive giving. And so basically a couple of years ago, we started on this project, and so we wanted to create a product that one would give us the ability to capture the critical data, critical data such as your donor information. I know it's a really big thing. Most people who give to the Kettle, they just give some cash, but there's no real way to interact with that donor after the fact, because it's really just that cash that's gone in the bucket, and there's no way to really track that back to an individual. And so we wanted to create a way where you could really just capture that donor information, and at the end of the day, make it easy for that donor to go through the system and use the system really easily and seamlessly to give their donation to Salvation Army. And so this definitely creates some new opportunities for us, with giving us the ability, for example, to operate at your luncheon events, at other different concerts and other events that you guys have, and just really to get into that market of trying to help raise funds and again make it easy for that to happen. And then also the processing. So all transactions most of the time settled within 1 day. So we're able to track the donor and giving information all in one place. And so thus interactive giving. And then also with our revenue, so donors could give electronically, just by swiping their cards instead of, again, having to go online or just putting some cash in a bucket, or Kettle, excuse me. And then from there, we also just wanted to stick to a modern design. We wanted something, that was modern, something that people really enjoyed looking at, something that was usable and just really full of functionality. And so that's basically just a quick overview of our general functions and features there of interactive giving. Now, we had a proof of concept stage a couple years ago. We actually ended up working with 4 different locations throughout Texas. We wanted our proof of concept just to basically prove some points, and so part of that was to prove that all the data received through interactive giving was good data. That's not some random person signing up on a website with some fake email address for a newsletter, for example. Some websites have this thing where just give us your email address, we'll give you this download for free for some ebook or something. A lot of that data, some people just put in a fake email address and there you go. But not with interactive giving. If you swipe your card, you go through the process. It's really just that end user giving you some really good information, and so that's what we're able to capture through the product. And then from there, just to be able to measure the donor acceptance, so from there, we had different tests that we did with Angel Tree, at different locations, all the way through to mall environments, to where we actually had some stuff set up in a mall. We also ran at different events. We did run at a concert for Austin, for example. They had their Red Kettle kickoff. And in Dallas, we had their annual luncheon that we got set up at, and so that was very nice to do. And then through that whole process, just trying to figure out what needs to change. Perhaps there's an issue with our process. We might have had some hardware issues, with for example, just trying to figure out how to keep the devices powered up all throughout the day, or just trying to come up with different ideas and solutions, and just trying to trying to really focus in and figure out all the issues that we could have potentially had. So yeah, the proof of concept stage was definitely very, very helpful for us. We then, as a result, actually ended up changing a slight design on our actual kiosk itself. So a few other things in the software, and that was all just thanks to the proof of concept stage that we did. And so just to give you guys a breakdown here real quick, so we ran in Tyler, Texas, San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas. We ran different things. So in Tyler, we had 3 kiosks. We had one at a Hobby Lobby, Kettle. As you can see, that one's unmanned. We had a couple manned and a couple unmanned scenarios that we ran. We also had there at a mail store, and then the Broadway Square Angel Tree, and that one ended up working out really well. And then in San Antonio, we had their golf tournament. We also had them there at the Jefferson Bank Kettle and Broadway Bank Kettle. And then in Austin, one of the biggest ones there was the Red Kettle Kickoff Concert, where they literally ran everything through the giving station and interactive giving. And so that worked out really well. And then again, there in Dallas, we had their annual luncheon, which was all unmanned. We were kind of just standing off to the sidelines. And through that, just seeing how people interacted with the product, as they were touching on the iPad screen, just kind of trying to just get an idea of how friendly the product was, and we could just really get some good information from that. So through our findings of all the donors that used our system through this proof of concept stage, we found that 53% of those donors actually requested a receipt through the system. We found out that with them providing their email address for the receipt, we gave them the option to check a box and actually subscribe to the newsletter. And so we got 21% of those actually sign up for a newsletter. And then the nice one to top it all is that 77% of all donations were above $5. And so, at your Kettle, I don't know all the numbers, but I imagine most people, just grab their $1 or $2 out of their wallet and throw that in there. But when they have the ability to swipe their card, it's just a different mindset. They're able to just give so much more with such an easy process to do so. And so from here, with the Angel Tree specifically, we found that with the help of the administration of the app, that we eliminated the need for double entry and also created an effective way to associate donations with the angel codes. I know various locations have different types of angel codes, but with Tyler, Texas, we created them a specific Angel Tree app, and people could go through the system and actually enter in multiple angel codes and then associate that with their donation. So by the time all that information hit our dashboard, it was all already input, and someone could just pull up that donations information and see exactly what angel code to associate that donation for. And so that really helps a lot. And then just performance. So we got the highest revenue intake of all the events we tried. Angel Tree was actually one of our best performers, and so we're very excited about that. And then our data, it was just also the best event to convert donor data. So we had an average donation of $121.15. We also had there 43% sign up for the newsletter, and out of all of that, 68% of donors actually requested a receipt as well. And again, specific just to the Angel Tree donations. Here on the picture on the right, you can see that this is where we had it set up there in Tyler, Texas. So I had your regular Kettle with the interactive giving product, and we like to say that the interactive giving, that the giving station really complements the Red Kettle. We don't necessarily see this as something that's going to ever replace the Kettle, but just something that's going to, as you can see in that picture, beautifully placed, that it's going to work side by side and pretty much give you guys both the best worlds, if you will. And so yeah, that worked out pretty well. So that was pretty much our Angel Tree scenario testing over there. Let's see what else we got. Then we had the event. This picture on the right here is our the Austin, Texas Red Kettle Kickoff. We had quite a number of kiosks set up at this location, and they had different things going on where to buy your food, you basically just had to give a donation of X amount as a minimum. And so they went in, and people would just give their donation through the giving station, and then just present their email receipt to whoever was handing out the food, and it was just a very seamless, easy process for that. And so yeah, for events, there's definitely multi-use solutions. So for tickets, for food, auctions, etc. There was a silent auction here at this particular event for the Red Kettle Kickoff, and that also requires a coordinator just just for a promotion on the ground. We did find through this proof of concept stage that it was so much better interaction when we actually had someone manned with the giving station to kind of just help interact with people, rather than just leaving it by itself, and people would just kind of walk by, check it out, and walk past, and that was pretty much it. And so that that might be just from the reason that it's a brand new product. It's not something that's really common just yet. So anyway, just some interesting statistics there. And so 65% of donors from this Red Kettle Kickoff event, we had 65% of donors request a receipt, and then 37% sign up for the newsletter. And so yeah, we're just able to provide a really good, just that extra that we wouldn't have had initially if we were using just an ordinary Red Kettle, if you will. And so that was really cool. So that's pretty much wraps up our information. We just kind of wanted to give you guys some real numbers and just from our real experience of being out there during our proof of concept stage. And so that was very cool. So we also did create through all this a website for you guys to check out specifically. So if you head on over to trulyinteractive.com/salvationarmy, you'll find that it's just a one-page website, but it's got a lot of good information just about interactive giving and about the kiosk specifically. So here, as you see on my screen, so here we actually have a promotional video that we created for interactive giving as a product. And then further down, just a little bit of information more about the apps and just where they can be used and how they can be used to receive those funds and donations for those events. And just some more information again about the product, what you can do with it. So we just talked about how you can analyze the data and pull reports and that sort of thing. Then we do have a small little section here just about the giving stations as a whole. You can kind of just see with the pictures, some of these stands actually have giving station cut out with the LED light on the inside, while others are just a little smaller and don't actually have that cut out. And then there's information sheets you can download specifically to see more information on those units themselves. And then we also have some testimonies here. We have one on the left here for the Austin Red Kettle Kickoff event. And then we also have Tyler, Texas, just giving their feedback from the Angel Tree. Just some stuff from your fellow locations that you can listen and go look at and just get some inspiration on the product and see what they did with it. So that pretty much covers just the general overview here of proof of concept and information. I'm going to move into the actual giving station real quick. So as you saw here, basically the hardware. So there's basically a base that's all, I believe, stainless steel. So on the inside, we actually have power outlets. On the back of the giving station, there's actually a cord that you can plug in and an extension cord to run power to the giving station. And then on the inside, we have the outlets again that actually have a couple of USB ports, and so that really just helps pretty much power up the iPad itself. So that there's an iPad that goes in the enclosure, this black enclosure that's on top of the shield. And then there's also a card reader that can be powered by micro USB. And so really just to power the iPad and the card reader itself. So we have that power built in on the inside of the giving station. And so it also works out well if you're in a location where you don't have power. We found that very effectively you can use, for example, like one of those Mophie juice packs or kind of like an external battery pack with a couple of USB ports. You can actually use that to just get some extended life, just to power the iPad and the card reader itself, just for that extended time. So if you're out somewhere, like again, with no power, that was a very easy way to power up the devices. And so that's a quick overview again of the hardware. So again, the app itself runs on an iPad, and so that iPad is in the enclosure, and then everything else is awesome. So are you interested in anything else you wanted to say on the hardware itself?
Not necessarily on the hardware, but it was a good segment into talking about the 3 apps that are on the iPad. So I want to share my screen for just a bit so I can show just kind of what those icons would look like and some best practices. All right, here we go. So if you can see my screen, you'll see in the top right corner we have the AirWatch agent application and the AirWatch catalog. These have been preloaded on your iPads at THQ and connected to an AirWatch account. This is how the applications get to the iPad. And whenever THQ or Technology updates those applications, we will push them through AirWatch so that you don't have to do any of the cumbersome processes of downloading it from the App Store and signing in with the Apple ID and doing things like that. But you want to leave the AirWatch on your device and the catalog, and you can open the catalog and install either of these apps if they're not already on your device. You also want to make sure that you have an internet connection and the card reader. The iPads for Florida do have cellular connections, so you would need to work with whoever manages your cellular account if you want to just add those as a line on your account. They are unlocked for AT&T and Verizon, so you can just literally give them the IMEI number on the iPads and they can activate it for service for you. You also want to make sure you leave the PIN and the Touch ID off because once the screen goes dark, if it's in the enclosure, no one will be able to turn it back on. You can't get to the home button. And it's designed to where if you open up the app, it'll stay open all day and a person can swipe, make a donation, it will go back to the front of the app. So just wanted to kind of point out those best practices there. You definitely want to make sure you also keep gestures disabled. There's a gesture, if you use all 5 fingers on an iPad and swipe it together, it'll take you to the home screen. And so anybody who has an iPad may know that, and they can exit your giving app just by doing that gesture. So please keep the gestures disabled. And there's also a primary error that you may see in the giving app, and it's designed to be that way, and that it'll only show if you don't have the card reader connected and charged, or you don't have internet, and it'll say out of service. So if you open up the app and you sign in and you see out of service, then either it doesn't have the card reader connected, it doesn't have the microphone permission, which is what it uses to connect to the earphone jack and things like that, or it doesn't have internet. It's only one of those 3 things. So you want to make sure you plug in the card reader and you have internet, and the out of service error should go away. All right, so from there, that's pretty much all I wanted to go over as far as best practices. These apps have been loaded to your iPad, so please look for those if you're following along. And Darren, I'll pass it back over to you.
Awesome. Okay, great. So just to reiterate what our interest was saying here real quick. So here is how your out-of-service screen will look. So again, if that card reader is not plugged in or doesn't have the right permissions, then you'll see this out-of-service screen. So it's a very clear. And I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview with the app itself. So on here, I actually have the year-round app. And so going into the year-round app, there's basically just a slideshow that runs through, so it just has some information. Here's the card logos or brands that you guys may have active on your account, and we'll get into that just a little later. So as you can see, it just kind of goes through some pictures and touches on a few things. Now, the app itself on your iPad is not going to run through as fast as this one's going, so I just noticed this one's running really quickly. But we do have the timer set up so that people can actually read these texts. And so just imagine yourself with me for a moment. You're walking up to one of these giving station kiosks, and so you look at the information and see this little blinking give button at the bottom right. So if I tap on that, this is not just as good as someone touching the screen. You'll go through the process, and someone will be able to basically select a preset amount or actually enter in another amount. So if I hit other, I can actually enter in a different, just a different amount. So let's just say I want to do $500. And then you can see my amount here is switched. And so from here, I can then just hit next. this is now very clearly where the user will actually just swipe their card. Now, I'm using a simulator here, so I don't actually have a card reader hooked up. But if someone were to swipe their card, and let's just say there was a swipe error, then this is kind of the screen that they get, just telling them, oh, hey, swipe again. So they touch here to swipe again. And if they get a good read, then they'll actually be presented with the ability to enter in their zip code. This is kind of just like going to the gas station, swiping your card, and so you can then actually just enter in your zip code. So for demo purposes, I'm just going to use anything, but it'll now be processed. And of course, because I didn't actually swipe a card, I don't really have card data, so it's just going to decline. And I unfortunately won't be able to show you any further from here. But right after this point, if a transaction actually were successful, they would be presented just with a little box to enter in their signature. So they would just literally draw on the screen, get their signature, and then from there, once they're done, they're done. They can now do the extras, if you will. We basically wanted to make this as seamless and easy as possible to get the donation itself. Then once we've got the donation, we can then present to the user any extras. And so any extras such as, you know, asking for their email receipt, asking for the newsletter. And so all that information would just be on a couple more screens. And then apart from that, that's pretty much the app. So it's super simple. And again, just runs through the slideshow. This is the front of the app, if you will. And so yeah, it'll be on the slideshow screen just as long as the user's not running through the process of giving a donation. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that real quick. So that's pretty much the app. This again is the year-round app. We do have a couple other apps. One specifically for the Christmas period where we've got some images tailored more for Christmas and that sort of thing. But yeah, so that's the app. So I'm going to now take you through real quick the actual dashboard itself, or truly interactive, the giving.sauss.net website. So when you're signing in for the first time, this is going to be the screen that you're going to be presented with. This will be pretty much a first-time thing. As you go through this wizard, it's just going to help kind of get your account set up. So if I hit this get started, it's just going to ask me for some general information about the location that I'm at. I'm not going to go through this entire process right now, but this is just kind of a glimpse of what you'll see. In some cases, this information may already actually be set up for you. And so most of the time, if the account's already set up, you may not actually see the screen, but just in case you do, we just wanted to show this to you real quick. So you'll just enter in your location information. So perhaps the Salvation Army, Florida, and then, you know, whichever address and phone number and email associated with that. The next screen will be the receipt screen, and this will be specifically for information that gets displayed on the email receipt that a user receives just once they make that donation, and if they request an actual receipt, just the information that will be displayed on that receipt. And so again, we'll get to this information in a little more detail here in a little bit. So I'm actually going to go ahead and log out here real quick and log in with a different account. And so we're going to be signing in and showing you the system as Waco, Texas. So just a heads up here. So you'll see here in the top left in the URL, we actually at Waco, Texas South. And so you'll know which location you're looking at or signed in as, just basically based on this little subdomain here that displays. And then also up here at the top right will also be your name. So it'll show just your name here with the Salvation Army logo. You can then also go to my profile, and that'll just give you a very quick way to change your password for this website specifically. And then we just have the local time displayed here at the top right. And so just real quick, so this dashboard, or this home page, if you will, once you're signed in, this is what we call the dashboard. So this dashboard is going to just kind of have some very quick, simple summaries of information for you. And so starting off here at the top left, we have the quick summary, which defaults to a 7-day view. So in other words, the last week. So we could see here in the last week that we've done a total, basically all our donations for the last week have totaled $15. In this case, we actually only have had one donation, so that donation was $15. and as a result, our average donation was $15, and then from that one donation, we had nobody sign up for the newsletter. Now, if I track it back to the last 30 days, we can see that over the last 30 days, we've received a total of $3,288 with 15 unique donations. And then as a result of that, the average donation being $219. And out of those 15 donations, we had 7 sign up for the newsletter. But let's just say you had some event going on today and you wanted to see more specifically what's happening today. So then you could just simply switch to the today view, and that'll just give you some live updates. If you want to see some new numbers, you could literally just reload the page, and then these numbers would update automatically just based on whatever the latest data we have. And so that's the quick summary piece over here. Then we wanted to give you guys the data in a slightly different way. So we have the key performance indicators, and so this is kind of just a graph of the last month, and you can kind of just bring your mouse over and see specifically where donations were happening. So per our 30-day summary up here, you can see over the last 30 days, the majority of these donations came in on the 29th, and then also the 28th, the day before, and then there's just a little bit here on the 18th. So within our week view, you can see that one donation on the 18th, which was $15. And so this donations tab is really just more about the money side of things, and so the amounts of money that came in. And then we also have the donor view, and so this is now specifically more about the donors themselves. So we can see that on the 29th that we had specifically 12 donors, and the day before that then 2 donors, and then back to the 18th with the 1 donor. And then also with the newsletters, again, on those days specifically, we can see that on the 29th, 7 people sign up for the newsletter, and then day before that 1 person, and then the 18th 1 person. And so again, just a nice easy way to get a good glimpse of the last week or the last month of what happened more specifically without really having to navigate to any other page in the system. Then here on the right, we have My Devices. These are pretty much all the iPads that are signed in to this location. So again, we're signed in here with Waco. And so that this one device here now in California, this is the simulator device that I was just showing you, just to give you a glimpse of the app. So it's actually now showing a fake location in California. So this map, as a result, automatically zooms out to fit in all your devices comfortably within the map view. And so in the real world, you know, we would be zoomed in more here in the Waco area, just seeing different, you know, these different markers for the respective different devices with where they're at, just around Waco. And so in this case, here's the one device that's called iPad. And so this device name actually uses the device name itself. So on the iPad, if you go into the Settings app and then General and About, you can see the name of the device. A lot of the times when you sign in on your iPhone, for example, you sign in with your Apple ID, and it'll actually tell you automatically, oh, this is Darren's iPhone because I just took my name from my Apple ID account. So it might already say something like the Salvation Army's iPad, but you can freely change that name. And the app will actually automatically update our system with that name. So it's very easy to keep track of which device more specifically just by giving it a good name. So that always helps. And then from here, you can actually click on that iPad name, and it'll take you to our device management page specifically for that device, which we'll get into more details with that in a little bit. And so that's pretty much the map view. So you've got a nice good glance of pretty much where the devices are. And then also there's today's revenue for that particular device. So you can see again at a glance what that device specifically has processed today. And so that's just some nice good information as well. And then also we have a summary of donations, and this is pretty much just your most recent donations list. As you can see here, our interest is donation, that's in red with the little $sign. That means the donation was declined. And so then all these other ones in green, these are the donations that actually went through. And so you get a very quick glimpse again of basically how much the donation was, who it was by, and then just the date of when that donation actually happened. And so from here, you could click on this row for the transaction and actually take you to a page to view more details about that transaction specifically. And again, we'll get more into that once we get to the transactions page here on the left. And you'll also notice here there's the alerts and notifications option. So here today I just signed in a new device called iPad Simulator. And so that's just a new device that was then technically added to the device management section. So that basically produced a notification. Otherwise, we have alerts. So Orange says iPad went offline. Now this could be perhaps that the battery died, or perhaps that cellular data just lost signal, or you know, perhaps you're in an area with Wi-Fi, but the signal might be low, or perhaps the Wi-Fi just went out for some reason. So basically, we mark a device as offline if it hasn't pinged or spoken with the server in about 10 or 15 minutes. Now, we have the app set up to communicate with the server roughly around every 5 minutes, and that sends vital information such as the current GPS coordinates of that device, you know, the battery level, the battery status. So in other words, is it plugged in and charging, or is it unplugged and discharging? So just some vital information like that, which we use to determine if a device is okay or not. And so here you can see the iPad's battery was at 5%, 10%, 25%. So basically over the course of a couple hours, this particular device, you know, was discharging. Its battery got low, and then finally just shut off because its battery died. So you can see that very clearly here with the or in this case, alerts that got generated as a result from that. And so again, these will just be your most recent alerts and notifications. So as devices go through different things, this list will just dynamically update. I think we're showing about the last 25 or 30 notifications here. And so then we just have quick reports. This will just basically act as a link to your reports page. There's just too much for us to really do quickly from this one particular spot, you know, because we need things like what type of report do you want, what date ranges do you want, so, you know, from and to dates. And so anyway, when you click on this, you'll get taken to that reports page, and then that'll just give you some more information or give you more options as far as what reports you can actually run. So our interest, was there anything else you wanted to mention on the dashboard real quick?
No, sir. I think you did a great job covering it.
Okay, wonderful. So just real quick, I just realized I didn't talk about transaction processing up top here. So that this is going to be a very important thing to look out for. So when you guys are setting up your new iPads and devices, you want to make sure that they work. You know, we don't want you to be too scared to scan or swipe a real card, you know, and say, oh, I don't want to actually give money. I just want to test the system, make sure it works. Well, you'll be able to know if your particular location is in what we call test mode by seeing this transactions processing or transactions not processing up here at the top. And so we'll cover here in the account settings with where you can actually turn that test mode on and off. But at a glance, no matter what page you're on throughout this dashboard, you're going to be able to see transactions processing or not processing. And so just if it's not processing, you're in test mode, which on the app itself, you'll actually see at the bottom in the center, there's going to be a big red banner, and it's actually going to say test mode specifically. So you'll be able to know with the app itself if test mode is on or off. And just a heads up, if you do make a change here in the account settings, it does typically take about those five minutes or so as the iPad has to check in with the server for that status to update on the iPad app itself. So if you do make a change, just wait for that test mode banner to actually appear before you swipe your card, just to make double sure that test mode is on. In most cases, if you turn test mode on right in the dashboard, any transaction from that moment forward would actually be a test transaction, but again, the app doesn't always show that test mode right away. So we just want to make sure that to test mode, just make sure that you see that test mode banner at the bottom of the app. And so then also if you're logged in with another location, let's just say you're logged in with Florida HQ. Forgive me if I don't mention the name correctly, but you basically just log in as Florida with more sub-locations, if you will, that are under you, you're going to see next to the left of this transactions processing, you're going to basically see Florida HQ, and you can click on that Florida HQ, and it'll actually just give you a list of the sub-locations that are under that particular location. And so you can actually switch dashboard views to view that other location and just see some more information specific to them. So just a heads up, if you're basically over another location that's within the system, you're probably going to see something, just another icon over here next to the left of the transactions processing screen. And so does anyone have any specific questions to the dashboard before we move on to the next section? Okay. Well, awesome. So the next part of the truly interactive giving page or the back end here is device management. So this is going to give you basically just a list of all the devices that you have associated with this particular account. So here's the iPad simulator that I signed into a little bit ago. Then there's Orange's iPad, Sam's iPad, and just the other iPad that we saw in the list there on the map. And so from here, it just gives you, again, a glance of each device so we can see that all these devices have not actually been assigned to a location, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. Excuse me. Then we also have the campaign, and now when you can assign a device to a particular campaign, so let's say you're having a luncheon or some other event, you can actually assign a particular device that's going to be at that event to that campaign. And so in other words, when a transaction comes into the system, we actually record that transaction specifically with the campaign that the device is associated to. So in other words, if this particular iPad were right now to swipe a transaction, that transaction would actually be logged or recorded as lunch and gala dinner. And so that way down the road, let's say you get done with your event and here in the next week or two, you get done, you need to generate your reports. You're trying to figure out how exactly you needed to allocate funds, or you're trying to figure out really your totals of how much was raised for that particular event. Then it's just a matter of running a report on that particular campaign, and then that'll just give you guys some information nice and easy to determine how much was raised. But again, really important that that campaign actually gets set, or else the default campaign here is the red kettle. So if you didn't set it up, then it would just be designated as red kettle for the campaign. And then we also give a total revenue. Now this is the total revenue ever processed by this particular device. And so if you sign up a device today, and let's say a year from now you wanted to come in here, then you could get a good glance of over the last year what this specific device was able to process. And so then from there, there's also the version. This is now speaking to the actual version of the app that's on the device. And as we push out app updates, you'll just be able to tell based on what version number a device is on. And this is also useful for if you're trying to do some troubleshooting with the IT team. Some app perhaps has an issue, but let's say we've done 2 updates since then. They can then ask you, well, what version is the iPad on? And you can then tell them very specifically, oh, in this case, it's on version 1.0.4. And they could tell you, oh, you actually need to update that app. So through the other app, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name now. Through the other MDM apps that they have on the device, they can then help you just update these apps through the agent that's on the device.
The AirWatch agent.
AirWatch, that's right. Thank you, sir. For some reason, I just can't think of the name. And then we also have the status over here. So this, again, is if a device is online or offline. And so this particular device, the iPad simulator, which I still have running over here on the next screen, it's actually pulling updates to the server, and so it's showing this device is active because, again, every few minutes it's getting that location update and just checking in with the server to say, hey, I'm good. And so otherwise, if a device was offline, again, that would just be marked here with the status as offline. And so digging deeper into a device, if you actually click on a name, you'll be able to see here more specifically some information about the device. So we have the map again. The simulator device is simulating that its location is in California, so we can see here that it's actually in California. We can zoom that map in and out and just get a good idea of more specifically where it's at. You can then also see right below it is the campaign, and so this particular device is assigned to the red Kettle campaign. And then again, just a glance, this device is online. Now, because it's a simulator, it's not actually giving me some accurate numbers as far as the battery percentage. But if we had a real life device out there that was active, we would be able to see, oh, it's at 86%, or you know, whatever percent the battery is currently at. And then from there, there's donation acceptance. Now, this means typically that it's really just referring to, is the card reader connected or not. So if you were to unplug the card reader and check back here in a few minutes, you would see that this donation acceptance is offline. Whereas if you were to plug that card reader in and we were good to go, it would then basically become green and say online. So we'd know then that this device is ready to accept donations. And so then from here, again, just a glance of today's revenue, and then the weekly revenue, so the last 7 days, and then the last 30 days, so the monthly revenue, how much has this device generated within these respective tiers. And so just, again, a good way to get a glance of some numbers. So if I go back to this iPad device, we can see here over the last month, 3.3K, and more specific, if you hover the mouse over it, we've got $3,273 from this device in the last month, but then nothing in the last week and nothing today. And so to that point of the donations over here on the right side, just like we have on the dashboard, those most recent donations. So this is more of the most recent donations for this specific device that you're looking at right now. And so you can just get a glance there of donations that came through. And then just same thing as the dashboard, there's the most recent alerts and notifications for that device specifically. Now there's also, I don't know if you guys have noticed, there's this little gear right under the map and to the right of the campaign. If you click on this settings gear, this will actually just give you some information specific to this device again. So you remember on the initial device management screen, we had that device location or assigned location column. And this is a very good thing to set up when you get your devices out in the field. So you remember in our proof of concept, we had a unit, say for example, at Hobby Lobby or at a particular mall. So you could then just put in here device location, it's at Hobby Lobby, and then the actual address for that Hobby Lobby, or you know, it's at such and such a mall at the south entrance, and then again just an address for that particular mall. And then over here, the campaign type, so you can actually specify the campaign. So we've given you guys the option to select from some of the most common, the common campaigns that you guys run. And then from there, there's other, if there's just something that we don't have in the list or something that doesn't meet the criteria, you can then just select other. And then from here, we recommend that you fill in this information. It's really good for inventory purposes. You can then put in the physical device's serial number and also its IMEI number. And so if on the iPad itself, if you look on the back, there's usually the serial number of the device, but then also if for some reason it's not there, you can just go into the settings app, so settings, general, and about. And if you look through that information, you'll be able to pull up the serial number and then also the IMEI number. And so again, we highly recommend that you put this information in also for inventory purposes, but then also if you're just trying to identify a device, it's also, again, just very good to have this information there. And so, or interest, anything else you want to say on device management?
No, sir. I know for the most part, when I use this page, I come in to see if I have my campaign set, and I come in to see the device statuses that are not red, and they should all be green. And for the most part, I'm just also looking at the location. So from a standpoint of managing your device, you're potentially just going to come into this page to change the campaign so that it reflects exactly what you're doing in that day or that week. And you'll probably spend most of your time on the transactions or dashboard.
Great. So does anyone else does anyone have any questions specifically for device management and any information on the screen?
As we continue the call, I wanted to also point out that Darren is from the group that has designed this software and who's helped us to roll it out here in the last Christmas season. So I want, if you have any questions, even some that you might not think that we would know the answers to, go ahead and speak those out so we can just make it as clear as possible for you. And you may actually be clear on all of this, so I don't want to underestimate that at all. But just letting you know that Darren is definitely able to answer any questions you have.
Okay, great. So we're going to move into transactions now. So this particular screen, you'll see this looks very similar now to the dashboard screen. We had that little section there with the most recent transactions. So the transaction screen, this is where you're going to be able to see transactions for the entire history of your particular location. So in this case, we only have 29 total transactions. Excuse me, but from here you can then use the pagination to just go through the pages, or there's also this filter up top. And so let's say you're looking for a specific a specific donation, perhaps it happened on a specific day, so you can pull in your date here and just select a date. There's also the location, so if you knew where specific it happened, you can type in that location. Or perhaps you don't know the location or the donor you're speaking with, perhaps you're trying to help someone over the phone, and you're just trying to look up a donation. You can then type in the name that's on their card, their donation amount, and then even specify the campaign that the transaction perhaps occurred for, and then just hit the update list. And so this results page will then dynamically update based on whatever it matched per the information that you have here in the filter. So you can see here also in this red bar, so again, just referencing or trying to communicate that this was a declined transaction. So if I hit this little plus symbol that's to the left, I can then expand that donation and see more information about that donation. So you can see the name of the card says Orientrius. There's the data not submitted by donor. Of course, it's a declined transaction, so they never actually got to the point where they could put in their signature or request a receipt. So that's totally expected. We can see the donation amount that they tried was $15, one-time donation. I don't know if you guys could see this little logo here, but it's the MasterCard logo. So this will actually change out depending on what card brand was used. So if it was a Visa, it'll be Visa logo. And then just the last 4 digits of the card that the user used. So in this case, the last 4 digits of the person's card, 78, 79, 85, and then just the date and time that this happened. Now, you guys will see this ID field here and then a specific number. You guys aren't really generally going to need to reference that, but if for some reason there's an issue with a transaction and this needs to go up to tech support to help out with the perhaps trying to figure something out or whatever the case may be. And just for ease of trying to look up the transaction, then this particular ID would be useful. But for the most part, you're pretty much not really going to worry about that number. So you're going to see this number all the time. But again, it's only really going to be needed for like tech support situations. And so we'll just open up another donation here so you can see this was a Visa card ending in 9781. This person now, because it was an approved donation, so they went through the process. They actually did request an email receipt, so therefore you could see email receipt. But when they went through the process, they did not subscribe to the newsletter, so they did not check that box. It will actually show the X here. If they did sign up for the newsletter, you would see just an actual check mark, so did or did not sign up for a newsletter based on that little check mark. And then just the address, if they went through the screen where they actually filled in their physical address, then you would have that information here. Most donors, as we found, didn't really want to provide that information, but they did at least request an email receipt, so we got their email address that way. So it's something that we could use perhaps for like follow-up or something. And so yeah, that's pretty much the transactions view. That this next one I opened up the person specifically said no thank you. So when I asked them, hey, did you want an email receipt, and they actually tapped no thank you, there's a little button that they could press. And so in this case, they specifically said no thank you. Otherwise, the app does time out. So if someone finishes their donation and leaves, and it just sits on that screen. After about, I think it's about 45 seconds of just sitting there, it's actually automatically going to close out the donation. And so you'll see something like this with data not submitted by donor. So that's pretty much what that means. And so that's pretty much covers the transactions. I guess one thing I forgot to mention was the map here. So you'll actually see the map view, which kind of just like Square. If you guys have ever used a vendor who uses Square, they send you the email receipt, and it actually contains the location of where your transaction was swiped. And so as you can see here, there's also just the location of where this particular transaction happened. So does anyone else have any questions on transactions specifically? Okay. Now, if you guys are ever faced with the situation where someone needs a refund on a particular donation, we like to use the example that perhaps they wanted to donate $15, but they accidentally hit the zero too many times, and so they got like $150 instead of $15, and they're calling you to do a refund. Interactive Giving itself does not process refunds, but if you log into your virtual merchant account or your Elevon account, then through there you'd definitely be able to process a refund. So just a heads up, if you're ever faced with that situation, you cannot do a refund through this program, but just log in your virtual merchant, and through there you can certainly refund a transaction that way. All right, so into the reports view. So I'm just going to go over this really quick. I know we're running just a little behind here, but donation, we have several types of reports that you guys can run. So one is your donation reports. This is more specifically about the donation itself. So we give you some options here, kind of like sub-reports. So you could choose a report that's all donations, so regardless of what physical iPad it was swiped on or what location it was swiped at. We just want everything. Then you can select all donations. And then there's the from and to dates. So if you select the from date, so let's just say, from the 10th through the 14th, so just that Monday through Friday. So I can then just specify those dates and hit run report. And so that'll then generate a CSV file, something I can then open or import with Excel and just create a spreadsheet from it. And then, of course, from there, do whatever I need to do with the data. So if I need to just, calculate some totals or, just whatever you need to do with the data, you can then just very easily add that into a spreadsheet using the exported CSV file. And so from here, you can then do donations by location. So let's say you had 2 kiosks, for example, set up at a mall, and you just wanted to run a report on that particular mall location, then you'd just be able to do that through here. Or even a particular device. You might have, again, just going on with the example of a mall, you might find that, some devices you want to see if the north entrance versus the south entrance had more or less donations. So you could then also just do donations by a particular device, and for example, just be able to pull up that data and figure it out. And so there's other scenarios, of course, where this might be useful. But yeah, that's pretty much what you can do with all that. And then from here, there's the donor report. So this is now more specific information about the donor themselves. So things like, did they sign up for the newsletter? Did they request an email receipt? If they provided their physical address, then that address will be exported with that information. So from here, again, you can request all donors. So regardless of if they sign up for a newsletter or requested a receipt, I just want everything. So you can then select all donors. Or you might be interested specifically in those who sign up for the newsletter because you need to get them added to Interchange or some CRM that you might be using for marketing. Then you can just specifically export the newsletter signups and run that report, and again, CSV file into Excel. And from there, of course, you should be able to get that into a friendly format to import to your respective other programs that you have. And then from here, there's just the device reports. Pretty much, we only have one option here for all devices. So you can just get reports by device, and you can mine data specifically by location or campaign types that those devices might have been assigned to at that time. And then there's also the alerts and notifications report. So remember on the dashboard or under device management, we had that list of alerts and notifications. So perhaps you remember something that happened last week, you see something that was kind of suspicious or abnormal, so you just want to run a report and kind of go through that data more specifically, so you can then just come to this alert and notification report, and then again just select your timeline. That might have been a specific day, so you could say from the 10th to the 10th, or it might have just been over those last couple of days, and so you can just select the days and then again run report and get your CSV file. That we are looking to, we're always looking to add some more stuff to make it even better for you guys, and so we are looking to integrate directly with Interchange here down the road. We're just unfortunately not at that point just yet, but we are looking to add other reports, and so anyway, stay tuned for the specific page, because we're hoping to add some more stuff for you guys. So does anyone have any questions specifically for reports? Okay, and then the last page here that we have is the account settings. Now this information you should recognize from that general wizard when you first sign in with your account, and to ask you for your location information. So in this particular case, we already have all that information filled out, and so here's just some general information about this particular location for Waco. And then from there we have, I'm just going to skip down to the donation receipt. So this particular information, this is now, again, like I was saying earlier, the location information that's going to be on the receipt itself when someone actually requests a receipt. So you enter in your location name, the address, phone number, email. There's then also some options here for your website, your Facebook page, and your Twitter account. On the actual email receipt itself, way down in the bottom footer, we actually have logos respectfully for these particular items. So you'll see a Salvation Army shield, a Facebook icon, and a Twitter icon. And just based on whatever information you punch in here for these websites, if someone's pulling up their email receipt and they tap that Facebook icon, it's actually just going to take them to this particular Facebook page. And then, of course, same with Twitter and same with the Salvation Army shield, it'll just take them to that particular website. And then within the receipt itself, we do give some options to provide a thank you message. So we give you the option to personalize just a little bit the information that displays on that receipt. So we like to say, if you perhaps have, say, an event coming up or a concert or just something, you could always add in here very briefly, hey, don't forget to check out the Red Kettle Kickoff, for example, coming up on May 25th, or just whatever event you have coming up that you want to promote. It's just something that you can add in here, and any receipts generated during that time frame will then have this thank you message specifically put in there. And then there's also the disclaimer message. It's just something, just another message that you can put in. So in this case, just saying, please retain this receipt for your tax records, and as the IRS likes to know, that no goods or services were provided as a result of these contributions. So that's just, again, a little disclaimer message on the receipt. The disclaimer, you're probably not really going to change much, but the thank you message, again, depending if you have events you want to promote, we do see you guys changing that out quite a bit. And so we do actually limit the characters for these sections to about 200 characters each. And that's just to keep the actual email receipt clean, which I'm actually going to try and find you guys, find you guys an example real quick. Give me just a second while I pull that up for you.
Darren, while you're pulling that up, I just wanted to let everyone know that we have entered this information and the receipt thank you message specific for your location, but of course you can edit that if you like.
All right, I apologize for the delay there with that. So here we have an example of the receipt. I apologize, here at the bottom, these logos do not display like this. These logos will be just left to right next to each other. But just very briefly, we're using our Truly Interactive demo account for this one. And so this particular information here in this donation receipt tab, this is all the information displayed up here at the top. So Truly Interactive, the address, phone number, and email. So again, just all the information that you guys are plugging in over here. And then we also just have, here's the thank you message. So in this case, we just had a very simple thank you. But in this particular case, if it was for the Waco location, you'd be able to see this text over here just right under your donation receipt. So from here, we just present to the user the donation ID. This, again, is just our internal donation ID. This will be the one, or if there's, for some reason, a need for tech support for something related to that transaction, then that's the ID number. Then there's the donation amount and the card number used with their expiration, and then the authorization code returned from Elevon, and then just the actual date and time that the transaction happened. And then there's, as you can see here, really small, this is a test. So this is actually this disclaimer message that will be displayed right over here based on whatever you have. And then from there, we just have the signature that was captured on the app. So right after they swipe and it's successful and they give us their signature, then they'll be able to see their signature that they put in the receipt. And then also the map location, again, of just where that transaction actually happened or occurred. That they'll be able to see that. So that's pretty much the receipt, which again just references everything that's on this particular page. Now coming back to the alerts and notifications tab, so we've built in the ability for you guys to receive alerts or notifications on specific conditions. So, excuse me. So this particular one, notify me when we receive a donation that is over X amount. So the system will automatically shoot you an email if, in this case, a donation over $250 happens. And so if you guys don't need that, you can just very simply disable this notification. But otherwise, it's very nice to know, perhaps you have a specific person, assigned to follow up with donors. And so this will be a very easy way for that person to get these notifications automatically, because perhaps, oh man, so-and-so gave a really large donation. Instead of trying to rely on reports to come through and then, oh, hey, so-and-so, could you follow up with these donors? They can just immediately in real time get that notification from the system and just really present a faster, just a faster process for them to follow up with that donor. Otherwise, you can get an alert or notification when someone signs up to receive the newsletter. Again, same thing, if received in real time, someone might be specifically designated to add this email address to the marketing system. And so, again, much quicker if they get this notification in real time rather than having to wait for a report. And so perhaps perhaps a few weeks later, they only get that information. All that can be nicely avoided if they have this enabled and they can receive that information on a more real-time basis. Then also here, there's select the frequency of alert messages. So, for example, remember on the dashboard page, we had those alerts about a particular device reaching a battery percentage that was 25, 10, 5%, or even offline. So you can then sign up for real-time alerts so and again, you can assign to someone who's more managing those devices in the field, and they can receive these particular notifications right in their email as they happen. And so they can see, oh, iPad so-and-so, its battery level is down to 50%, and so perhaps that power, there's no power, or perhaps just the backup battery it was running on, say that external juice pack has run out, and so now it's no longer charging. And so really just to help those field agents know more so what's happening in the field right now. Or perhaps you don't want them in real time and you can just do like a daily digest or weekly, or even perhaps we don't need that information, so let's just disable that. And then same thing for notifications, it's the exact same thing. So you can receive these in real time, daily or weekly, or even just turn them off. Now, to control who receives these alerts or notifications, here on the right, we have the section for you to add and remove email addresses. So right off the bat, it might be a little confusing. Well, where do I type in the email address? Well, this little field is actually wedged between these buttons for remove and add to list. So if you click in this input field that's between the buttons, you can then go ahead and just type something in. So I'm just going to use a test@email.com. So I add it to the list. And now immediately, any of these notifications and alerts that run, these two email addresses are going to start receiving these alerts just based on how it's set up. Now, if you need to remove someone, it's pretty much the same thing. Just come into this page, select the email that you want to remove, and then just hit the remove button, and it'll just take it right out. And so this particular function updates live, so you don't necessarily have to hit save, but it's always just a good idea to hit save. But typically, if you remove an address or add an address, this is kind of like a live update to the system. So no real need to hit save, but again, just a good idea to hit save anyway. So does anyone have any issues or, excuse me, any questions for what we've covered here so far, the location, donation receipt, or notifications and alerts? Okay. Then the last thing we need to cover here is the merchant account. Now, this typically is going to be already set up for you. You're probably never going to need to come in here and actually change this information. But hypothetically, if something does happen and your account number or your merchant IDs need to change, and this is where you would change that. But I believe the IT team would most likely be taking care of that for you anyway. So again, probably no need ever to come in here and change this information. Now, you remember on the app I showed you that we have the card brands that are displaying for what your particular location can or can't process. And so as you can see here, based on these enabled card types, we actually do have Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and Discover all turned on. And so therefore, all four logos display on that first page on the app itself. So if for some reason you couldn't accept Amex and Discover, so you could just turn them off and hit save, then here in a few minutes, this app, as it actually checks in with the server, these logos will actually be removed, and so all you would see then is the two logos that are active. And so it's very important to have that up to date and accurate, just so people, they don't really need to ask, oh, can I swipe an Amex here? If you don't see the logo, well, that's it. You can't process an Amex. And so that's how you control these logos that go on and off on the app itself. And then the last thing here is this is where you actually turn test mode on and off. So if you were to turn test mode on, just toggle it and hit save. And so very quickly, I'm going to do that. So you can see here at the top now, we actually have not processing. And I'm actually going to quit this app here real quick and restart it just so you guys can get a good idea. So you see here's the banner that we were talking about at the bottom. So very clearly test mode is now on. And this banner will actually stay put as long as test mode is on. And so that way, you know, you can go through the process and swipe a real card and actually not worry about it being actually, or not worry about money actually being taken off of the card, just as long as this test mode banner exists and is displayed. So I just wanted to show that to you real quick with test mode on. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn test mode back off for Waco. So awesome. So now we're back into processing. So I don't know if you guys notice here at the top, again, it just changed to not processing and back to processing. So just again, if you're ever doing tests, just make sure that not processing is on, or that this red banner in the app is on before you process anything. And then the last thing here is this test merchant account settings. If for some reason you did need to change your credentials over here, just make sure that you test merchant account settings. But basically what we do is simulate a dummy transaction to Elevon, and just as long as we're able to log into their system using these credentials, then at least we know, oh, hey, these credentials are good. Otherwise, if Elevon returns to us and says, oh, hey, failed to authenticate, well, then we at least know that there's some issue here with this information. We can then just present an error to you telling you that there's a problem, and then you can just double check these and make sure that they're correct. But again, you're more than likely not ever really going to need to change these numbers. So anyway, that's the account settings page. And then this last piece here is the click here to download iPad app. So what we recommend you do in this case, let's say for some reason you do have a new iPad and the app is not installed or AirWatch is not installed, we recommend that you actually sign into this dashboard on the iPad itself, and then click this little banner and then tap on this AirWatch link. It'll actually take you right to the App Store on the iPad itself and let you download that app, and then from there the IT team can actually take over and remotely install the apps and make sure everything's up to date and so on and so forth. So that's just this last little piece here. And so that pretty much covers everything. Or interest, anything else that you wanted to add?
Yes, I wanted to just mention right off of, as a default really, your account is set up to take Visa, MasterCard, and Discover. So again, that's Visa, MasterCard, and Discover. If you'd like to take American Express, we would just need an email to your divisional finance department initiated, and they will just work with getting you an account and a number set up and linked to your Elevon to take American Express. So right as you set up, you can go ahead and enable Visa, MasterCard, and Discover. You also want to complete a test transaction before you begin to use this at an event. Your merchant account has been set up and the details have been entered, but you will need to test a swipe and you'll need to test a transaction, and just make sure you get to the point where it asks you to enter the zip code and the signature. From that point, then that card type does work successfully and you can begin to use that at an event. I know we're going over time here, and I apologize for that, but I just wanted to cover how you'd get support. And so from the first, what I really want to start with is, generally you want to make sure that your card reader's connected, it's charged, the iPad's connected, and has internet. And from that standpoint, all of the rest should work. You should be able to take transactions, and you should be able to just have this set up to take donations. If for some reason that doesn't work, the first thing that we would suggest is for you to close the app using the force close, or by hitting the home button twice and then swipe it up. And so on iOS devices, that's how you close the app, and then open it back up and let it go through and test again. Other than that, you can send an email to me or Entry S. Cook in Lotus Notes, and I'll definitely work right with you to understand what's going on with your particular location or the issue or the InteractiveGIVING dashboard or whatever your question is. Just go ahead and start with me through email, and that will allow me to respond back to you. If you call me, that's not a problem, but I would need to then remember to help you out with that issue. If you come through email, it automatically generates into my work log. And you can also email the USS Help Desk, and it will definitely get to me. So for the most part, I just want to thank Darren so much for going through the dashboard with us today, and going through the applications and providing us a training and overview, and to open up if there are any questions before we end the call. David, Gabriella, Heather, Jay, Maxine, Melanie, Michelle, Thomas, are there any questions? Nice.
Nope.
That is awesome. I hope you've received your dashboard credentials. What was that? Okay, well, yes, I hope you've received your dashboard credentials. If you have not, please email me and I'll set them up right now. Please, if you can, let me know once you have tested. I'll probably go ahead and shoot an email out to you just to verify. But please definitely test the swipe and get it all hooked up into the kiosk. We didn't mention, and this is just some extra information, that you'll need to feed the cabling through the kiosk there so that everything sits in the enclosure. You'll have the card reader out to the right, and then you'll feed the cable that goes to the headphone jack and the power cable, and then you'll sit the iPad on top and close it. But that's just some extra information. Thank you guys so much for joining in and for the extra time. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.